Dr. Jeff Weiss.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the 2021 Promising Practices Award Celebration. I am Dr. Jeff Weiss, the Superintendent for the School District of South Milwaukee. Today, we're here to celebrate the accomplishments of our schools for the school years 2020 and 2021. And this is especially noteworthy because of the incredible challenges that all school districts faced this past year. It is in times of great challenge that character becomes more important than ever. And I'd like to begin this afternoon's celebration by thanking the Wisconsin Character Education Partnership for supporting this effort. I would also like to thank the M&I Bank Foundation for their sponsorship, as well as thanking our partner, the UW-Milwaukee School of Education. Promising practices are best practices that can be shared, and we are here this afternoon to learn from and to celebrate one another. We all know that although academic success is very important, it's not the complete picture of what makes people in schools successful. In the School District of South Milwaukee, character education is one of our 4 pillars. The School District of South Milwaukee is also a school district of character. Character education is the foundation that leads to successful schools. Strong character is needed for success in any endeavor. It is the bedrock of our democracy. I encourage you to use scholarships for the 16th annual Illuminating Character Conference and the 11 Pillars training on June 24th. I also wish you great success as you continue your journey towards state schools of character. Thank you, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Dr. Weiss, we'll start with slides here. Rachel will pull those up in just a second. Okay, so I just wanted to share, so people who are joining us who may not know exactly how the award was, practices were selected. The criteria was that one of the 11 principles was exemplified. The practice is unique, transformative, and transferable, and it represents a best practice approach, a model. It's a model for other schools. And that's the criteria that WCEP used when selecting these practices. So the benefits of becoming a designee of a promising practice: the school will get scholarships for a principal or an administrator and 4 other staff people to attend the Character Education Conference on June 24th. They can also attend the 11 Principals training on June 23rd. And it affirms that your school's on the right track for the character education. And again, it's a model for other schools in the state. Next slide. So we're gonna go through and have each school share briefly in 3 to 5 minutes. And we would like to try to stick to that time frame so we could get through everyone in the hour with their slides. And we'll start with Alverno College. The next school up will be Carmen, and I will let you know as we move on to each one who is next. But just to run through the list, it's going to be Alverno, Carmen, then College Park, Edgewood, Greenwood, Necedah, Oconomowoc, St. John's, and Walker. So, but I'll give you a heads up on who's next. So we'll start then with Alverno College.
Thank you so much, Julie. Again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming to you all from the Dells, occupied territory of the Menominee, Ho-Chunk, and Winnebago First Nations. So I'm going to try really hard. Brevity is not my strong suit. So I'm going to try really hard. So you can go ahead to the next slide, Rachel. I'm going to talk a little bit about our promising practice. So you can go ahead to the next slide as well. I didn't even introduce myself. So I'm Dr. Vanessa. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, also a professor of community psychology at Alverno College. And before I go in and talk more about our practice, I just want to give a shout out to our LACES team, who sort of went through all of this character education over the past year together, and it was really a sort of group effort to push forward this promising practice. So you can go ahead to the next slide, Rachel. So our practice was one that came out of the Thea Bowman Institute for Excellence in Leadership, which is newly formed, and in honor of the late Sister Thea Bowman, who was a Black nun from Mississippi, but she was educated in Wisconsin. She had a doctorate in English, and she served as a professor for 3 different universities. And in addition, she gained national and international acclaim for her passion and advocacy for racial justice. And so if you want to go ahead to the next slide. The Thea Bowman Institute offers a full scholarship program for undergraduate students. And Alverno is a women's college, so this is a scholarship program for Black women who really have a strong desire to sort of develop their leadership more fully, and to also just sort of, make waves and make moves in their various communities. So the Thea Bowman Institute is sort of staffed and run by what we call Inspioneers. So these are Black women who are engaged in the program, who work with the scholars, mentor the scholars, and sort of just pass along whatever we can to them as they're on their journey at Alverno. Next slide, please. And so our promising practice was related to the monthly seminars that we do with the scholars. So this is a picture of our sort of inaugural cohort of Bowman scholars. And one thing that we did in these monthly seminars was racial identity development work. So this first year of their scholarship was really focused on their inner journey and their identity development. And being that this is a scholarship program filled with Black women, we wanted to be sure that we did what we can to sort of help them to foster and develop positive Black identity. So our promising practice was related to Principle 4 of creating a caring community. And again, in these leadership seminars, we focused on racial identity development, Clifton strengths, just general skills for life. But it was very important for us as Black women to be able to create a safe space for healing, where we could experience joy and value one another, because the world doesn't always do that due to racism. So it was very important for us to create a space like that for our scholars. I think that's my last slide. I don't know. I think it is. Awesome. Thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, just let me know.
All right, so next slide here is Carmen South Middle School. Is Yesenia, has she joined us? So, okay, so Yesenia is not on here yet. So I think we're gonna skip ahead. She may be joining us late, and then we could always come back to Carmen if she is able to get back to it. But their promising practice was all around circles. So our next is College Park.
Okay, hi, I'm here to represent College Park. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
All right, so this year, College Park, we were determined to reunite our school community with a focus on the social and emotional well-being of our students and staff, given all of the changes that we've experienced in the last year and a half. Our driving question was, how do we continue to build and strengthen relationships during a pandemic? And this goal was achieved through shared learning and social experiences and enhanced communication strategies. Virtual students and families were connected to all in-person learning experience as well as all social experiences. So we took our virtual learners and our virtual teachers and we integrated them into our everyday learning in the building as if they were here with us. That was our goal. So through increased use of technology that allowed for some creativity and versatility in our learning and our social experiences, it actually led to increased family involvement and just new ways to use technology for our staff. And essentially these shared experiences throughout the year included Book of the Month read alouds that were done virtually with our virtual students along with our in-person students. We had collaborative student projects across those platforms, shared virtual field trips, shared video announcements from our principal and other staff, virtual social events, monthly cultural education that was shared throughout. We had book competitions and spirit days. So in the end, we decided that we were all stronger together, regardless of where we were located, and that was our goal that we felt that we achieved.
Should
All
I go
right,
ahead,
Edgewood.
Julie? Okay. Hi, I'm Jackie Micklig. I'm the school counselor at Edgewood, and we're actually in the Greenfield School District. And I am here on the behalf of two of my colleagues that couldn't be here. So we felt that their work should still be shared. So you could advance the slide, please. So first up, we have the Kindness Club that was done by Sue Adkins. She's one of our 5th grade teachers. You can go ahead. Sue was first motivated to start this Kindness Club after she went to the National Character Forum in DC in 2017, and she heard Houston Kraft speak. And she came back and she really, really wanted to do some explicit instruction in kindness. She then watched a TED Talk with Furiel Pearson and read her book about secret kindness agents. So that became kind of the framework for her Kindness Club. You can go ahead. Furiel actually implemented that in a high school. So what's so great is that this is really can be done across the board. So they use these secret agents. The kids were able to pick their names, and each of their kindness acts was in the format of a mission. And here you can see what a typical agenda would be. It was open to 5th graders, and they met weekly after school throughout the year. And the next slide, go ahead, shows some of the various activities that they did throughout the school year. And it really became quite contagious. Some of the 2nd grade teachers reported that their students were asking if they could kind of do some of the same activities as the Kindness Club. So they were emulating the older students. And we saw a definite increase in just random acts of kindness throughout the school. It also had quite of a community influence. We, one of our former parents was in our building. Her son had, I think, basketball practice. And she saw the Take One posters that the Kindness Club had made. And you know, the things that say like they take a compliment or take a smile. And she brought that back to the We Are Teachers team. And they actually created printable Take One posters that they published on their blog. And that was inspired by the Edgewood Kindness Club. So that was kind of a neat thing. And then also some of these the rocks, the Kindness Rocks went to our Greenfield Police Department, and they shared them on social media. And it was kind of a catalyst for the police officers to also make Kindness Rocks and spread them around the community. And that was all over their social media. So there was definitely a community influence as well. The plan this year was to have the police officers and students paint the Kindness Rocks together. That did not happen because of our restrictions, but hopefully in the future. The Kindness Club did not meet this year per se because of the restrictions for after school activities, but Sue definitely within her classroom implemented a lot of things. She just did the chalk messages the other day, and I know there's been Take One posters and different things around the school. So I'm sure it will be back up in action as soon as possible. There was the reflection component as well. And the next slide also shows just some of the testimonials from some of the kids. Her first year, she went from 15 students, and it grew to last year was 29. So that's the Kindness Club. And then the next slide speaks to our Boys in Flight program by John Warnicki. He was our PE teacher. John is not at our building anymore. He's a stay-at-home dad, our definite loss. But he started this program as kind of a response. We've had the Girls on the Run program for many, many years, and it's been such a positive thing for our girls, for that physical activity, but also those SEL development skills. So he kind of created his own program based on that. So he further develops our character traits, but speaks to the staff about what are some traits that we would like to see further developed? This program was open to 4th and 5th grade boys after school. Ran for 9 weeks for about 90 minutes. And it did not occur this year, but we have a great FIAD teacher filling that role. So who knows what the future will bring. The next slide kind of shows the breakdown of what a typical session would look like. So they had a character trait each week. There was character homework that the kids would have to do at home and then come back and share. There was an interactive activity to see that trait in action. There was a reflection component and then a cooperative physical activity. A lot of it was spent on promoting good sportsmanship and those cooperation teamwork type skills. And then the next slide speaks to, there was also a responsibility expectation in place. He has structured things working with the classroom teachers about homework and attendance and things like that. For 2 years, he worked with the Milwaukee Bucks School Matters Initiative, and they got some tickets, so they were able to enjoy a game as a group with their family members as well. And then he was continually evolving, and he added a community service project this past year. So that was Boys in Flight. Thank you.
All right, next is Greenwood Elementary from River Falls, Wisconsin. And Emily Rose created a recording for her presentation because she wasn't able to be here tonight.
Hello, I'm Emily Rose. I'm the school counselor at Greenwood Elementary School in River Falls, Wisconsin, and I'm here to present on our Promising Practice Award for our Some Good News podcast and show. So our podcast was created in 2018. I wrote a grant for a local foundation called our Forward Foundation that awards grants to educators in our community. And I wrote a grant for podcast equipment that would allow our students to podcast their character journey. I wanted to promote connection between students and also the character content that we were doing, and empower the older students in our school to be able to share their voice and their opinion and to be able to spread that message to those in the community. The biggest thing that I was hoping for with the impact of this podcast was that students felt creative, that they were able to share their voice, and that they could impact the students around them in the school, our school community, parents, grandparents, and then also our Greater River Falls community. So in 2018, we were able to start our podcast crew. I had a group of 4th and 5th grade students that came to me, and they worked behind the scenes before they got to the actual recording period to be able to figure out what content they wanted to create. So their podcast was centered around our character education program. So oftentimes they were talking about a single character trait or multiple ones. They talked about how they were seeing it here at school. They had segments called The Good at Greenwood, where they would share good stories that they heard around Greenwood. They would have a listener challenge where they would challenge them on something related to our character trait of the month. And then they had the hot topic. They asked me to find news stories related to character education that they could discuss. Some of those topics were, should kids be paid for doing household chores, or should they do it because it shows good character? They debated other things that were involved with our community, and they were able to share their opinion and how they feel. It was nice because it was not the teachers directing the learning of character, it was the students, and they were able to kind of go off script and be able to share their feelings related to it. Last year, when we moved to distance learning, I couldn't pack up all our podcasting equipment. So some of my students had noticed John Krasinski and his Some Good News show that he did on YouTube that was uplifting, positive, and they felt spread character throughout the entire world. So our students asked if we could create a Some Good News TV show that we could do virtually during distance learning. So during distance learning, we had, I believe, 5 episodes that we were able to create. My podcast crew then became news responders, and they found good news stories in the local community and also around the world that they wanted to report on. One of our students up at the top, Will, he even reached out to one of our teachers who was sewing masks for the local community, and he did an interview over Zoom and recorded it. And we were able to share this with all of our students, our staff, and the community members. And it was a great experience during this distance learning. The kids were super engaged in wanting to promote, to the fact that even one of our news correspondents actually reached out to a Packer player and was able to interview them over Zoom. The picture on the right is me. I was our co-host. The students asked me to lead it, and just like John Krasinski, I signed off every time with a funny outfit on. That picture actually got some traction with the actual Some Good News Instagram account and reposted, and our students were pretty excited about that. So during distance learning, we had to move platforms to our virtual, and then this year, our students wanted to bring back the podcast. We were able to do one podcast this year just with our COVID regulations, and we were able to merge the two together. So they created the Some Good News podcast, and we're able to report on some good news articles and stories that they heard from around the country. So that's our Some Good News show and podcast for our Promising Practice. I want to thank the organization so much for awarding us this award. We're a state school of character and a national school of character, and have previously won Promising Practice Awards, and it has helped our staff be able to better our program. It's helped us be able to network with other schools, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right. Next up is Necedah Elementary, and I just want to acknowledge that their Promising Practice was the Cardinal Classrooms. No one from Necedah Elementary was able to join us tonight, so we're going to move ahead to Necedah High School.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Horbinski. I am a teacher and coach at Necedah High School, and our Promising Practice is called Opportunity Over Outcome. This is our second Promising Practice. The first Promising Practice that we were awarded was for our 180 Sportsmanship Club. It was a student-led organization to promote positive sportsmanship. And the second Promising Practice, Opportunity Over Outcome, is actually a Promising Practice put into play by the 180 Club. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. Opportunity over outcome is an umbrella term that's going to cover multiple activities that the students are involved in on game nights during our winter sports seasons. Next slide, please. We are addressing principle 4 and 5, as you can see, creating a caring community and providing kids with opportunities for moral action. So the premise of the practice is it takes a lot of people to make a sporting event possible for kids. And we want to take the opportunity to recognize and reward the contributions of everybody involved in that process. As I mentioned, the Sportsmanship Club brainstormed this idea, and they actually are in charge of planning and implementing it. And it includes multiple activities. Next slide, please. So the activities that fall under the umbrella of Opportunity Over Outcome are our Appreciation Bag Project, Better with a Letter, Sport of the Game, and Program Inserts. I'll just talk briefly about each one. So the Appreciation Bag Project, the students solicit donations throughout the community and provide snack bags for all coaches, players, cheerleaders, bus drivers, officials, game personnel, for our girls basketball games, our boys basketball games, and our wrestling program. Those are our winter sports. We're a relatively small school. So at the beginning of the night, the kids go around and they hand out these appreciation bags to the officials and the game personnel and the coaches. And then after the game is over, we have bags for all of the players at all levels that are playing that night at our school. Better with a letter. The official bags have a little something special in them. The 180 Club kids, they handwrite letters thanking the sport officials for coming to our school and working hard and providing this opportunity for our student athletes. And those are placed in the bags, and they're a nice surprise for the officials. They've gone over very well and are very much appreciated. Our sport of the game promotion happens at the conclusion of each varsity contest. The teams stay on the court or on the mat, and a sport of the game is selected by each opponent. So if Necedah is playing Cashion, Necedah will select the sport of the game from Cashion. Cashion will select the sport of the game from Necedah. We'll bring both of those two student athletes to the middle of the court, and we'll recognize them as sports of the game, provide them with a sport of the game t-shirt and applause from the stands for both schools. And then the last one is program inserts. So each week, the students from 180 Club create program inserts with positive sportsmanship messages, and they include them along with the rosters for the game. It's a nice opportunity when parents and spectators are waiting for the games to begin to read a positive message as a reminder of how we'd like to see them act during the competition. So all four of these activities collectively are opportunity over outcome, shining the light on not the score, but the opportunity to compete and have this educational opportunity. Next slide, please. So all total with the appreciation bags, we hand out about 1,100 of those. We hand out about 60 t-shirts. And the kids, again, they are responsible to put those bags together. They're responsible to have everything ready to go for the games. So it allows them to take ownership of the process, and it really is their program, and we're just very excited at how well it's gone over in our school community, our athletic community, and how our kids have embraced it. That's opportunity over outcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Next
You're
up is Oconomowoc High School.
Thanks, Julie. I'm Melissa Anders. I'm one of the associate principals at Oconomowoc High School, and I'm here to represent our promising practice. So our promising practice focus on really just the foundation of setting that compelling vision and aligning all of our work to it. So if you want to advance the next slide, you can see what our vision was. Oh, next. And this was just a description of what the promising practice was. And so you can go ahead one more. So here's our vision. So our vision is all about creating these pathways for students, so that they are future ready. They're ready for college, they're ready for a career, and they're ready for life after high school. And so once we had our vision in place, then that kind of laid the groundwork for all the rest of the work to fall in place. So if you want to advance the slide. So in order to align that vision to our values, let's say our values, how we actually came up with these values was something that was created with the input of our community and also our staff. So it basically all the feedback from all of those stakeholders was distilled into these 3 values. These are the things that we hold near and dear because we believe that these are the things that are most important to us. So we believe that our mascot is raccoons. So our raccoons are grounded. They're grounded in their values. Our raccoons are committed to their future, and they are accountable to themselves and to each other. And if they stick true to all of those values, then they are ready for their future. They're ready for college, they're ready for a career, and they're ready for life. So just a few details about what those look like. So what it looks like for our students to be grounded in their values is we have like a raccoon prep advisory program that we put together. So it started with grades 9 and now it's going into grade 10. So in grade 9, the students are they're reflecting on their own personal values so that they really know themselves, because they have to kind of know themselves in order to figure out what it is they want to do after high school, and in order to inform all of their choices and what's really important to them. Yeah, so the grade 10 rec and prep advisory that we're also we're working on next, that is going to focus on, okay, now that we have this strong foundation of who we are as individuals, then how do we understand others as well. So we also embedded service learning in there. So we have a freshman day of service where the teachers actually partner with community members. And so the teachers actually lead the students on choice-based service learning opportunities aligned to career pathways, so that the kids, they get a little taste of what it's like to be a servant leader and make an impact on their community. And from there, the service learning is just going to deepen. So, so it'll start with more community service, and then as they get older, then they engage more in the service of learning. So, and what it looks like for our learners to be committed to their goals, we have a grade 11 ACT prep advisory program. So a lot of our students, they're really committed to, getting that great ACT score, which it can be like a doorway for our students to, be able to, or it can open a lot of doors for our students to their future. So we have an entire prep program to prepare our students for that. So then we also have lessons from grades 9 through grades 12 that are academic and career planning lessons. And next year, we're actually implementing coaches to lead those, rather than having every classroom in the whole building trying to deliver these lessons and to do that in a uniform way. We wanted to just get, people who are really committed to this work. And so next year there's going to be 14 academic and career planning coaches who are really going to drive this work and are going to have that small, tight-knit community of learners, in helping them to develop their pathways to their future. So we also have our Pride period, which is like a flex period of time where kids can get individualized and small group academic support, and they can also get enrichment opportunities to bring in guest speakers from the community, that kind of thing. We also run our clubs and activities through this Pride period. And we have a common thread that was actually, we found really important throughout the pandemic, which was our Raccoon Community Connection. So we have a live stream set up from our East Campus. And so we actually have students running this. So we have someone who wants to be a weatherman. So we have a school weatherman that, is getting some life experience and career experience through this opportunity. The principal has the opportunity to, do the pledge, and whether learners are quarantined at home or they're here, or everybody's virtual, or we're hybrid, or whatever instructional model we're under, and wherever our learners are at, they can connect with this, and they can hear a common message. So and the kids actually design all the segments for this too. So then we, our kids are also accountable to themselves and accountable to each other. So we developed what's called community commitments, so rather than calling them school rules or expectations or a expectations matrix, we felt that, kids maybe wouldn't necessarily commit to that as much as if we had something that was called community commitments. These are the things that we will commit, the expectations we will commit to ourselves, to hold ourselves accountable to, and to hold each other accountable, in order to have a positive learning environment for all kids. So we also, we're a PBIS school too. So we also cultivated some tier 2 and 3 PBIS supports. And so we have reached fidelity within the tier 2, which is very hard for a high school to do. It's a little easier for some of the, elementary and middle schools to be able to do that. But even through the pandemic, we stuck to our model of having what we call committed coaches, who are committed to delivering those SAG lessons. And we have a mixture of academic and social, emotional, and behavioral groups that, we'll meet. And we have entrance and exit criteria, to make sure that we're supporting some of our learners who are struggling. We also have Minute Mentors. So Minute Mentors are committed to meeting with kids who have unexcused absences, just to kind of reintegrate them into the school in a smaller setting. And then we have our tier 3 intervention, which is Renew, and that's a multi-year intervention that's really focused on the family. And it's a pretty comprehensive intervention. So that'll lead all of our kids to be career, college, and life ready. So you can advance the slide. So here's a little bit about our impact, and actually some of the most exciting data that I just pulled yesterday for our end of year PBIS team celebration is we've really seen a lot more engagement in our attendance data, with the introduction of those community commitments and the common vision and the values. So we actually, in 2018 to 2019, the total of unexcused absences, 49,842. In 2020 to 2021, they actually fell all the way to 14,253. So we saw a similar impact with excused absences too, because we also don't want kids to be missing, in general. So it started out with 116,995 absences in 2018 and 19. Now it's all the way down to 24,858. So, and you see a similar trend with the tardiness. We see a huge reduction in our office discipline referrals in every single category. So we really feel like this is something that's building a strong foundation and strong community.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, then next is St. John's Northwestern Academies.
Hello, everyone. This is Anita Lemperger, and I'm here on behalf of my teams. One team is from 2020 and the other team is from 2021. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize if the 7 weeks old baby gets a little bit noisy. I don't have dad at home yet, so I have to hold him, otherwise he's gonna get really noisy. So I have a pacifier in case he gets noisy, so I apologize for that in advance. So if we could go to the first slide, I think we'll be looking at the 2020. So this was a peer tutoring program that won the Promising Practice Award last year. It was a team of quite different individuals. We are a military academy from Delafield, Wisconsin, and we represent many different areas. This is what you can see in our team too. We have teachers, we have an RFO, resident faculty officer. We had our academic dean as part of the team. I was part of the 2021 team, but first I'm going to talk about the peer tutoring program that is still an active program. Can we go to the next slide, please, Julie? Yes, so it's still a very active and a successful program. We work with cadets, and cadets are military students, and St. John's, the grades from 7th grade to 12th grade. And the peer tutoring started in 2017. And the two goals, among the goals were to, obviously to increase, improve the academic success, and to utilize the downtime because students had study hours. We are a boarding school, and students have study hours, and those study hours had to be structured at the end of the day. So they created peer tutoring to utilize the downtime as well. The student leaders were motivated to help improve student morale and help fellow students who needed it academically. So the way this is set up is that there are peer cadets who are responsible finding tutors, and the tutors are cadet tutors, and they are the one who are working with other students or cadets. And this is just a great system. It works every night. We have study hall hours every night, and the peer tutors are happy to help out, and the tutors are proud to tutor those kids who are in need. Can we go to the next slide, please? I think that's our, yes. So some numbers here. 20% of our students participated in this program. After 1 year, the academy average GPA improved by 0.2, and the average number of students on academic warning below 2.0 GPA decreased from 1520 to 5 to 8, which is great. And the two principles, character principles that were addressed were principle number 5 and principle number 7. We are trying to create a caring community, and the principle 7 is was focusing on student self-motivation. Again, this is still a very successful program, and we have 1 or 2 person cadets or cadet who is in charge of finding peer tutors, and teachers are signing up students who need extra additional academic support. So this was last year's promising practice, and I think we can move on to the next slide. This is the one that we received the Promising Practices Award this year. We had a different theme, and this year our Promising Practices was about leadership curriculum that was implemented in our leadership school. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm not sure if you are familiar with our school. We are famous, or we are well known for a military school, but we opened our doors for a non-military leadership academy in fall of 2020. And because it is a leadership school, obviously we needed a leadership curriculum, and the leadership curriculum differs from other leadership curriculums in that it applies an inside out approach. So we start with students where they are, and this 4-year curriculum develops the leader within, and it helps students to realize a different type of leadership. And this leadership curriculum is implemented right now only in grades 9 through 12. It will be probably implemented next year, starting 7, 8, and in 7th and 9th grade as well. The inside out approach meets students where they are, and yes, there's so much to say. It's a great program. Can we just go to the next slide, please? I think it has some more information here. Yes. So you can see here that we have, this is a 4-year course, and the first year starts with some self-assessment, some self-knowledge, some self-mastery, and students have to get to know themselves first. And the second, the third, and the 4th year, they have different goals. Each year has a different goal. The 4th year ends with a capstone project, and this is a leadership project. And students have opportunities to, so they are taking leadership classes in each year, and they have opportunities to practice to be a leader besides the classroom. So because these are boarding students, they live in barracks, and the military school and the leadership academy are different. That the leadership school has its own leaders, and these student leaders are leading other students. So they have to delegate other students too. And there's a lot of leadership opportunities as part of this curriculum that helps students to develop their own leadership style. and helps to develop the leader within. In the classroom, when they have leadership class, they often write their personal mission, and they also have to be clear about what their vision is about. So they write their vision statements too. And I think we can go to the next slide here. Yeah, so we connected this leadership curriculum to two of the character principles, Principle 3 and Principle 5, that we're using a comprehensive approach and in developing a character. And number 5 is that we are providing students the opportunities for moral action. And we saw the impact already this year. We have students who struggled before coming to our academy, and due to this program, they rise to become a leader, and they developed a new perspective, and they were not on leadership, and they were happy to become a leader, and they developed their own vision of leading and leadership. So part of this is, it's important because it helps us with behavior issues, and so this is technically a new practice. We started only this fall. It's not a practice that has been going on for many years, but we chose this one because we felt this was a successful one. So we're looking forward to more leadership classes next year. And I think, yes, it will be introduced for 7th and 8th graders as well. So that should be ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
So then next up is Walker. Well, before we get to Walker, let me just mention that Swallow Elementary, who was not here tonight, they did receive 3 Promising Practice Awards. They received Connecting Hearts and Minds with Intergenerational Practice. Next slide. Their Lead the Way practice for the middle school. And the last one was the whole district, which was growing efficacy in SEL community, in an SEL community. So those 3 practices were awarded to Swallow. So now we can move on to Walker, who received Promising Practices in 2020 and 2021.
Right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kristen Brownell, and I'm the school counselor here at Walker Elementary. Unfortunately, my partner in crime, Morgan Noster, couldn't be here tonight because she has a cute little baby she had to get home to this afternoon. So it's just me for tonight. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide and start to learn about our Success Skill program. So we received a Promising Practice Award last school year for our Success Skill program, which is our overall encompassing character education program. And the journey of how we got there is for many, many years, we've been a very strong PBIS school. But as we continue to do professional development and book studies through our school, we stumbled upon the path of character education. First through a book that emphasized growth mindset, and then through a book that emphasized character education by Thomas Hoare. So, and then that led us to LACES, where the past 2 years we have been attending, and they've done so much to support us in our journey on character education, allow us to collaborate with other schools, and really get the opportunity to think through like how we can continue to improve and build our character education program to be effective for kids. So once 2020 hit, you know, we were still pretty new in the character education front. We really had to reevaluate some of the things we were doing to adjust it to COVID, which I'll talk more about in a little bit for our virtual assemblies. You can move to our next slide. So we wanted to focus on character so that kids can learn what it means to be a good person, but not only that, but provide them the opportunity to define for themselves what that means to be a good person, because it's different for everybody. So some of our character traits we focus on are self-control and sportsmanship, embracing diversity, grit, integrity, and empathy. And this character program was supported through our PBIS committee, which is now becoming our character committee as we move further from the PBIS model. We just realized over the years that PBIS is great and there's a lot of components that we love about it, but with character education, there's a lot more opportunities for equitable learning experiences for all students. So that's why we're making more of that shift towards character education now. So with our PBIS committee to spread this school-wide, we wanted to build a strong foundation from the get-go. So we would do staff collaboration and professional development on a monthly basis, where we would introduce the success skill to the staff and say, okay, we're focusing on this for the next 2 months, and allow them time to explore resources we provide of activities, lessons, things they can do within their classrooms to embed character education into the kids' everyday learning. And then coming back together our next PD, allowing them the opportunity to reflect on what went well, what didn't go well, what are other teams doing, so that they could prepare for more lessons for the next 2 months. And then we repeat the process as we shift into our other character traits moving through the year. So some other ways we embed character education through our success skill program was our classroom activities, but also our all school assemblies. So our school assemblies are a great way to, we'd find like little videos that, you know, reiterate the importance of the character trait we were studying. Kids would share out. We were working towards different rewards we could earn with our tickets that we had been using at the time. We would have family engagement nights where families could come in and learn about the character trait skills and do different activities that kids had actually done in their classrooms. And kids were actually presenting at each of our little stations we had, sharing what they learned. And we also send home family letters every month that define the character trait for families and give resources for books, videos, different things that they can do at home with their child to continue to reinforce the character trait we're learning about at school at the time. We also think it's really important that the kids have ownership of the success skills so they can really internalize the skill and then apply it for themselves. So we developed some student leadership opportunities like our junior coaches and cadets, where our junior coaches would learn new recess games through collaboration we did with Playworks and teach it to kids outside, because we noticed lots of data showing us conflicts with hands-on conflict being outside. So that made a huge difference in our data, which we would share with kids at assemblies to see the decrease in physical aggression happening on the playground because of the work our junior coaches were doing, helping them do conflict management when there was a problem in a game, helping them practice sportsmanship by following the rules of the game they're teaching. So the kids were so excited about that when they saw those results were coming from them. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So these are just some visuals to show some of the core components of our success skills. There's a little clip of some staff PD where a lot of the activities we did through Alverno Laces, we would bring back to our staff, where we did a chain and links review, you know, reflecting on every single student in our school and do they have a chain or link to an adult? And if they don't, like, who can develop that with them? Because relationships are so important and every child deserves to have a champion rooting for them. We also had our staff review our 11 principles scoring sheet at the end of the year to see areas or principles that we were strong in, and then principles that we still needed some more improvement in to help us make an action plan for the next school year. There's a picture of an example of some classroom lessons that friends would do, a picture from one of our all school assemblies this little girl has hearing aids. So that particular assembly, she showed how her hearing aids worked. And she taught us some sign language that she uses because that was like a passion project of hers because she became very interested in using sign. So she taught the whole school some different sign to do. And she was so excited to be able to share that with the school-wide community. We try to praise students who are showing character on our Success Skill All-Star Bulletin board. So teams highlight different students every couple months who really went above and beyond showing that character trait. So we put their picture up on a bulletin board. And then there's a picture just showing all of our different character traits we have that we display in our hallways for the kids to see. And those are posters we actually made in social emotional learning class, where after every couple months they would come together and I would ask them what they did in their classrooms, what they learned, and we made an anchor chart from it, summarizing everything they learned about that character trait. And then down in the corner, there's an example of one of the parent letters we send home for families. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So that was our promising practice for last year. And then this year, we had a more focused promising practice that was granted to us for our virtual assemblies. So like I mentioned before, we've done assemblies for a really long time, but as we've shifted towards character ed, just the content and purpose of the assemblies has changed. And it's more about reviewing character traits and giving students the opportunity to share like what they mean to them. And that was great. And we were really having fun with our assemblies, but then COVID happened and we had to adjust. And it took some time to figure out how we were going to do that. We were going into winter months and really noticing that, you know, everyone being at home separate from each other, our school-wide community was falling apart. Like everyone felt really disconnected and everyone was really feeling that, feeling down, feeling disengaged. Classroom communities struggling. So we figured like we have to find some way to all be able to come together as a school virtually. So we came up with our virtual assemblies where instead of the character committee pulling together videos, we put it on classroom teams to come up with plans for the assembly where kids could share out what each character trait means to them and how they show it. So it very quickly helped us regain our sense of school-wide community because even though we were all at home behind our individual screens, even just seeing each other on Zoom in that big grid, everyone was so excited and teachers got to see the kids they didn't get to say goodbye to in March, and classmates who aren't in the same class anymore got to see each other. So there were a lot of happy tears our very first assembly. So it was just really uplifting and gave us, you know, the boost we needed to become confident in our virtual learning again. So I don't know if it's possible to play that clip. Whoever's sharing the slide.
Bye, Walker All Stars. Bye.
So the hellos and goodbyes are still my favorite part of the assemblies, even when we do them now, because they're all just so excited to see each other and say hello, and they all love saying goodbye. So that's always a fun way to start and end our assemblies. So you can go on to our next slide. Whoops. All right, this just shows some visuals that we create to support our virtual assemblies. So each team, when it's their responsibility to host, we have an assembly agenda that helps them break down, you know, the components that we follow for assembly. And then we have slides ready for them to fill in with whatever they choose to put in there for what they're showcasing. We have a picture of our Walker Pride Pledge, which states a lot of our character traits that we believe in, that we want kids to embody throughout their day and time here at school. And then there's a few pictures of invitations, virtual invitations we create for teachers to share with their students and share with families at home as we invite them to join us as well. And our virtual assemblies cover different components of Principle 2, 3, and 4. Principle 2 being school defines character comprehensively to include thinking, feeling, and doing. Because we really want the kids' feedback of, what this means to them, because what empathy means to one student could be different from how the student next to them applies empathy. So giving them that voice and choice to share what it means to them and how they show it is really important. And principle 3 being school uses comprehensive, intentional, and proactive approaches to develop character. Our assemblies are one of the core components that help us all bring together our learning and share it with each other, and encourages students to reflect on how they've internalized the skill and how they apply the skill. And then of course, principle number 4, it helps us build a caring community between each other. So the first video doesn't need to be played. It's just an example of a quick video that reviews a character trait, to review for everybody and reinforce the learning we've done of that character trait. And then the top video is an example of a student sharing what embracing diversity means to her, if we can play that.
Diversity means to me is to respect other people who may look different or have different abilities than you do. It is important that we work together and accept each other.
And that's just one example of share outs kids do. Some kids tell personal stories of how they've experienced it or how they've done it for someone else. But I always love hearing all the different perspectives, because there's such a variety of like how they perceive it, how they internalize it, how they apply it. So they're really defining for themselves what it means for them to be a good person and show character. The bottom video is another example that we don't have to play because I want to respect everyone's time. But our last video, we always try to dance in our assemblies just to keep it light and have fun. And this is one particular friend who I saw really digging one of our songs that I wanted to share with everyone. So when you see all these dancing friends behind their computers, even though we're alone on a screen, you still feel so connected with our school-wide community when you see a kid that engaged in just a simple Go Noodle dance song you're doing. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you to the organization so much for granting us these Promising Practice Awards.
Thank you, Kristen. Great work going on at Walker and all these schools. So I think we're wrapping up here. This last slide just shows how you can make progress from Promising Practice towards a State School of Character, and then eventually National School of Character or National District of Character. So with that, I think, again, thank you to our sponsors and partners, and I'm going to ask Colin Jacobs to give us some closing remarks.
Thanks, Julie. I am Colin. I'm currently the HR director with the Pewaukee School District, and I'm also serving as a coach in LACES, the Leadership Advancing Culture and Climate in Schools. And so I've had a chance to work very closely with many of you on the call. And I was going to share how this showcase really represents equal parts recognition and celebration, and how important it is to be recognized, recognize your great work, all your effort this year, and celebrate together. And we've certainly done that. But that isn't the whole story. There's certainly an aspect of this showcase that represents an opportunity for us to network, as well as hopefully grab a hold of some inspiration, possibly even one great idea that shapes the next step on your journey in leadership and the character journey of your organization that may propel you into next year. And I hope that was the case today. But the last component that I want to share as a send-off is a thank you. And I want to thank it forward. And what I mean by that is there's no doubt that each of you have a practice that has had an impact on this year in your school and in your organization. There's a measurable component of each application for promising practices. You've looked back and you've gathered some data, and I'm so inspired to look at the effectiveness of how you've transformed an aspect of your organization through your leadership and hard work. But there's a future component to the work that was conducted this year. So I want to recognize that beyond the bricks and mortar of your school, beyond the screens that help us connect and continue learning when we can't be together, and beyond a date on the calendar that represents the end of a school year, your work undoubtedly goes on and has an impact. So I want to thank you on behalf of your future students. And I want to thank you on behalf of your future staff. They may not even be with you yet. And your future families and your future community members connected and affiliated with you and your school. Your leadership and work has had an impact on them. And that deserves a thank you. And I want to thank you forward. And getting back to that date on the calendar, I hope there's a finish line and it goes well to the end of this school year. But I know your leadership and your hard work will continue on. But of course, I want to leave you with some room for you to give yourself some permission to recharge, to even heal, and have a wonderful summer beyond the end of this school year, so that you can continue to take the steps on your leadership journey, as well as your school and your organization's leadership journey, because you are needed and an integral part in having that ripple effect continue. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for being here tonight, and again for your accomplishments. And we'll hopefully see you all at the Character Conference in June. And with your colleagues, bring them along with and use those scholarships. So enjoy your summers.
Thanks, Julie.